Hi there. I am excited to talk to you today about salary negotiation tactics, and I call this the Get What You Deserve training. So let's start by asking the question, when does salary negotiation start? Just think about that for a second. When do you start the salary negotiation? Well, think about it in terms of the application. Almost all applications are either going to ask you for your desired salary or salary history. Asking for salary history is against the law in 35 states and growing quickly. But that doesn't mean that every employer knows that, and they still may ask you for your salary history. If you're in one of those states, you might think about how to answer and how to respond to that carefully. But almost every application will ask you what your desired salary is. If you write 100,000, but you would accept 50, you may be taking yourself out of consideration. But here's the more important aspect of that. If you could not accept a position for less than, let's say, 75 to meet your monthly financial obligations, and you write 75, you can't be offended if they come back and they offer you 75. Or if you really need 75 and you wrote 65, just to be sure you would be in the pool, that they would consider you and not take you out of consideration just because of your salary requirements. If they offer you 65, you can't be offended because you said on your application that you would accept that. So just think about that when you put a salary down on the application. I know it's tricky because we don't want to leave money on the table, and we also don't want to appear greedy. That's the balance that we're trying to strike. But the number you put on the application needs to match your minimally acceptable amount. So we're going to talk about all the things you can negotiate in a salary and a job offer negotiation, and help you think about what it is that you do in fact need for base salary, so that you can put that on the application and you can start the negotiation process on the right foot. So let's dive in. A little bit about me. I'm Shauna Lake. I'm the founder of Deep in Talent Strategies, which was a company started in January of 2020. And I spend half of my time working with companies doing recruiting and consulting on salary negotiation and benchmarking. And I spend the other half of my time with job seekers doing career coaching and career consulting. And working with individuals and companies allows me to keep both sides of the employment equation connected. And I love bringing tips and tools like this to job seekers to help you compete and win in today's job market. I do have 23 years of human resources experience, which has allowed me to see all of the things that people can negotiate. And some things are pretty expected: salary, time off, sometimes job title, but there may be some things that you'll see on my spreadsheet that you didn't even know was possible to negotiate. So we're going to talk about that. Specifically, we're going to talk about common concerns that people have about salary negotiation, levers you can pull in the negotiation process, all the different elements you can negotiate, how to plan for the negotiation so you're going into it in an organized fashion, the best way to ask for what you want, and then how to get my worksheet, which I'm happy to give to you for free. Just stay tuned to see how to do that. So some of the common salary negotiation concerns that I hear, and I've personally experienced this as well, is we don't want to leave money on the table. If we ask for a number and they say yes so quickly, it kind of leaves us thinking, oh gosh, I probably should have asked for more. So I'll show you how to do a little bit of research to have an idea of what you can expect going into it. We don't want to appear greedy. We don't know what's fair, either inside the company or outside the company. We may be uncomfortable talking about money. It could be a lack of confidence. Then there's that idea of a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. If we have a job offer that's lackluster, it's not what we were hoping for, but we're not sure if we're going to get another one, do we take it? And that's a tough decision and something that we probably should talk about on a case-by-case basis. So common concerns in the salary negotiation process. Here are some of the most common levers you can pull in the negotiation: salary or base pay, commission if you're in a sales role, bonus, short and long-term incentives, which are often in the form of bonuses, but usually tied to specific outcomes or tenure, stock options, which are not common, a car allowance, or maybe a company car based on the nature of your work, relocation, if you are going to be moving for this position, PTO or sick personal vacation. PTO is paid time off, and different organizations call it different things, but it is often negotiable. Start date, job title, flexible schedules, which is becoming more and more common. Location, the ability to work remotely, or maybe a different location that company has if you needed to be on site for work. Insurances, while you may not be able to negotiate the how rich a medical insurance, for example, would be, you may be able to negotiate, depending on the company and how rigid they are, a waiting period or a start date, especially for self-funded plans that have a lot of control over how they administer their plans, but not always. Professional development, training, recertification, paying for your continuing education hours. So that is not an exhaustive list, but there are many of the levers people pull in a negotiation. My advice to you is choose your top 5 and order those. Choose the ones that are most important to you, and that may be less than 5, maybe just a few of them. And what are the things that are really, not negotiable or not critical, because you can't go in asking for all of these items, or you're going to burn some bridges, or you're going to come across as a prima donna before they've even gotten a chance to know you. So figure out the ones that are super important to you, and I'm going to show you how to do that and prioritize. Okay, do your research going into this negotiation. When you're researching the market for what salary you could expect, you want to try to get an idea of external and internal pay ranges. For a few organizations, they actually publish their pay ranges. A lot of government work you can find those salaries online. If it's a nonprofit, you can go to their tax filings, their 990 filings, and you can see what the top paid people in the organization are earning. And you may not be applying for one of those positions, and do know that those are usually published by the time you're seeing it, probably 2 years behind. But you can get an idea of where certain roles are falling in terms of salary. If you are hoping to earn $100,000 as a director, but you see that the CEO of a nonprofit is earning $100,000, there's a good indication there that you're going to have to adjust your expectations or not apply to that company. If it's a private company, it may be more difficult to find out what internal salaries are, but networking can be really useful. Glassdoor.com is a company name that I have to sometimes roll my eyes when I say, because most people go to Glassdoor when they have something bad to say. But after you have been to Glassdoor lurking for a while, researching companies, they will ask you to provide some information about a past or current position in order to keep looking for free. And that gets some salary data. So you can find some salary data on glassdoor.com. And more companies are moving towards pay transparency, where they're putting the pay range in the job posting, which is a trend I applaud. And I'm glad to see that continuing to grow, which is making it easier to level the playing field, to reduce pay inequities, and help us be better prepared for a negotiation with realistic expectations. Now, to look for what your position or your industry is paying in the broader market, there are very expensive wage and salary surveys that as individuals, we usually don't have access to. There's payscale.com and salary.com, which are okay sources. You have to consider the size of the company that you're applying to, the geographic location, whether it's public or private. You can't take these at face value, but you at least get an idea of the ballpark that you're in. And then the Bureau of Labor Statistics is a federal website where employers report monthly pay ranges across positions. So there's good data there by geographic location. A little bit difficult to find. Their website is so much information, it's hard to navigate. And then ONET is a fantastic resource to research different positions, the whether those industries are booming or maybe declining, and then also get salary expectations by geographic area. So of those sources, if the salary isn't listed in the job posting, ONET is probably my favorite resource for you. And then when you're doing your research, you also need to consider your personal needs, your personal budget. Speak with your family or your significant other, maybe a financial advisor. And then think about your time off expectations. If you already have, or you tend to take 3 vacations a year, getting 10 PTO days in a job offer is probably going to be very disappointing to you and force you to change what you've become accustomed to and will likely not be satisfying. Think about the flexibility of remote work. We are thinking about that more than ever in the past, the ability to work remotely because we've either become accustomed to it and we realize we're more productive, or maybe we've realized that we do not like working remotely. So we want to make sure that we have the ability to go into the office to collaborate or have some quiet heads down space, or perhaps a location with better internet connection than you have at home. So think about the flexibility that you want and the ability to work remotely or not. And then your other family commitments. If you have a job that is going to require you to work 75 or travel 75% of the time, you have young children, that may be really difficult. So think about what you truly need and then what you want. So if it's a nice to have, maybe put that into a different category. But of the things that are critical, know those in advance so that you're not maybe swayed by a fantastic job offer that after a couple of weeks you're going to regret. Okay, as you're thinking about all of the things we talked about so far, I have a spreadsheet, and this is just a little snippet of it. There are a few more categories down below, but this is designed to help you think about what you need, what you want, when are you going to walk away, and when do you just stop talking because the offer is so fantastic? So I have on the left side the different benefit options, including different forms of compensation and time off and insurance and training, professional development, etc. And then I have 3 additional columns here. One is fall out of my chair, great. That's where you're going to stop talking. Good is, yeah, this is acceptable. If I get that, I'm going to move on to the next priority of mine. And then minimally acceptable is, I'm not going to take this offer if they can't hit this. And think really carefully about that column. And this is the benefit of doing this ahead of time so that you are prepared, confident about what you need and what you want going into the negotiation, and that you can respond right away. It doesn't mean you have to accept on the spot, but it's more difficult to go back and ask for more things in subsequent conversations. You ideally want to get all of the big buckets discussed in that initial offer. Or if the recruiter is not empowered to make those decisions, let him or her know what they need to come back to you with in a polite and confident way. So let's start with base pay. If your minimally acceptable is $75,000, would you accept $74,999? If so, then 75 is not your minimally acceptable. Would you accept 70? If so, that's your minimally acceptable. You don't have to tell them that. You don't have to show your cards, but know in your heart of hearts, because you've done your research, you know what you're worth. You have talked to your family, financial advisor, you've looked at your budget, you know what you need in terms of base pay or some combination of salary and bonus. A bonus that's going to be fairly attainable and certain. List that as your minimally acceptable. So and that means you'll walk away. So if your minimally acceptable is 75,000 and they can't go above 74, you're going to say, thank you so much for your time. I've enjoyed learning about the organization. I'm going to have to decline the offer. Now, if you're not willing to say that, that's not your minimally acceptable, or you have to try to make that up with some other form of compensation. So again, you have to think about this ahead of time so you're prepared to do that confidently. But let's say your minimally acceptable is 75 and they offer you 90. You're going to say thank you very much, and you're going to move on to the next category that's important to you. Maybe the second most important thing to you is paid time off. In my experience, salary is usually number one, and paid time off or vacation is number 2. But everybody has different priorities in life, and we're all in different phases of our life. But if your number 2 is paid time off and you have to have 15 days, and 15 days is really common. I would say that's most organizations minimum, especially if that includes vacation and sick time. If they say we will give you 12 days and you've already said 15 is your minimally acceptable, that's usually a pretty easy lever to pull. I would say, thank you. I would like 20 days to be able to enjoy time with my family, to rest and recharge so that I can continue to give 100% to the job. How can we close the gap? So I don't know if you heard what I said there, but how can we close the gap? We're going to come back to that in a minute. Let's say that you are moving across the country for this position and they don't say anything about relocation. Get through your top 2 or 3 levers and then say, what is your relocation package? And generally, it's not something that you can negotiate for different amounts of money. That is the case occasionally, but most companies either have it or they don't. They don't offer relocation, maybe you ask for a sign-on bonus. So there are a few of these that really play nicely off of one another. Title is a lot of times an easy give. If you really want a director title and they offer you manager, maybe you can ask for senior manager, or maybe you go all the way up to director. Professional development and training is generally something that companies offer already, but if they haven't said anything about it and it hasn't come up in the interview process, you might want to ask if they will pay for professional development or training. If you have continuing education hours for your profession, or you have to maintain a certification, it is very important to understand what they cover and what they don't cover in the before you accept the position. I had a coworker once who had been an attorney for the organization, and all of his continuing education hours were always reimbursed by the company. And he took another position in a different department where he was no longer working as an attorney for the organization, and that new leader did not reimburse for continuing education hours. And it caused some friction, but he didn't ask ahead of time. And to that new leader, it wasn't a given. It wasn't something that was important for the new role. So make sure you understand what they do and they don't cover in terms of your certifications and continuing education hours. But those are often more inexpensive areas to negotiate and usually easier for them to say yes to, but they may not be your highest priority. So again, you want to move down your list from top to bottom. There will be a natural point at which you feel like you have exhausted them or you've exhausted all of your options. If you are a person who sometimes struggles knowing that, and with that intuition of knowing when you've gone too far, I would say stop at 3 areas that you've negotiated, unless it's just seeming way too easy. But you could always have a follow-up conversation where you ask for 1 or 2 other things. But if you generally have good intuition, you'll feel that point at which you probably need to stop talking. So this, I hope, is helpful. It is certainly not all-inclusive, and it's a pretty quick overview of this. I actually do have a training that goes even deeper into how to use my spreadsheet. So when you get the offer, as a recap, go down the spreadsheet and check off the topics they've covered as you're getting the offer. For example, when they're talking about base pay, when they said the salary, just put a little check mark down it. They're usually going to go through all of the package once, and then you have an opportunity to come back and negotiate and talk about the things that are important to you. So if there's something that is important to you that they haven't yet mentioned, that's a great place to start for clarification, to say, I don't believe I heard you talk about continuing education. Can you talk to me about that? You're not actually negotiating yet, you're just asking the question. And they may say, oh, we have this, or I don't know, let me check on that for you. And I don't think that counts towards your 3 things you can negotiate, because you haven't asked for anything else yet. Now, when you're ready to go into the negotiation, start with the things that are most important to you that doesn't meet the minimally acceptable. Then continue working through all of the things that are important, and then find that natural breaking point. Clarify next steps. Either they'll get back to you with some follow-up information, some questions they couldn't answer, or some things that they need permission. They don't have the authority to negotiate. Or maybe you have gone through all the things that are important and the next step is for you to make a decision. You should always get at least 3 days to make a decision. And that may include the weekend, but you can usually ask for 1 or 2 more days if you have another offer, or you want to talk to somebody to get some better tips on how to negotiate or do some more research about what's possible. If they are seeking you out and you don't immediately say yes to the offer, it does send the message that they may need to come back and they may need to offer a little bit more. So sometimes not saying yes immediately actually can work in your favor, but be positive, be optimistic. Say, I am excited to join the organization, or I'm excited about the possibility of joining the organization. I appreciate this offer. I do need some time to think about it. And can I get back to you on Tuesday, for example? And I wouldn't work for a company that wouldn't allow you time to make a good decision, because they want you to have thought about this, be confident and excited about your decision, not rushed into it, because they want you to stay and they don't want to have to repeat this recruitment process again in the near future. Okay. I talked a little bit about closing the gap. So that is the magic bullet script that has helped me personally and people I've worked with get more in a salary negotiation. Let's say I offer you $70,000, but you need $75,000. If you say back to me, I was really hoping for $75,000. Okay, I don't feel compelled to say something, to give you something. If you say, would it be possible to get to $75,000? It's a yes or no question. And I may say, I don't think so. But what I may be able to do is say the $70,000 is our base pay, but I may be able to give you a couple more PTO days. I may give you something, but I still don't feel compelled to give you salary because you asked a yes or no question and it's just easy to say no. But if you say, I really need $75,000 to make this decision and make this move. I understand that the offer is currently for $70,000. How do we close the gap? Well, now I feel compelled to do something to help close the gap, because you've asked in such a nice way and you've identified the problem, and I'm a problem solver. I want to help you get from here to there. It may seem like a nuance, but it works really well. So think about that. Practice saying that. Even practice in other parts of your life. If you're hoping for pizza for dinner on Friday night and someone else in your household would rather go get tacos, maybe you say, I kind of had my heart set on pizza. I understand that you want tacos. How could we close the gap? Is there some place where we could find both on the menu? Just try to practice using that phrase, close the gap, because it works really well. Most people do want to close the gap. They want to find win-win solutions. So I'll say that again in terms of salary. Let's use a different number. Let's say maybe you've hit my minimally acceptable offer, but the rest of the offer kind of stinks. Your insurance isn't very good. I have to wait 3 months. You don't have very good paid time off. There's not a lot of flexibility. It all meets my minimally acceptable standard, but nothing exceeds my expectations. And you've offered me $50,000. If I would live with it and I could say 50, I still may say, based on my research, this position and this market in this industry is going to continue to add value for years to come. I really think this position is worth $60,000. How can we close the gap? They may not get all the way to 60, but I bet they'll get to 55, mostly because they know they didn't give you very much else. And it's really how you've asked for it, how you've approached it in a professional, mature, confident way. When you say, oh gosh, I was really hoping for this, it's just too easy for them to say, I'm sorry. You want them to want to work with you, to meet you halfway and close the gap. So the perhaps biggest takeaway I have for you is balance confidence with graciousness. Remember that, especially in a smaller organization or a mid-sized organization, there's a really good chance that you're going to see this person that you're negotiating with again. You may even work closely with them. You could even be on the same team with them. Be the person that they want to take to lunch after you start, not the person they're going to dodge in the hallway or let your calls go to voicemail because you were so hard to negotiate with. Confidence may not be natural, and it isn't for many people, but it can be practiced. Chances are you're going to work, like I said, with this person, and you want to be confident, and you want to be somebody that they enjoy, and they want to perhaps even be friends with once you work. But again, you have to kind of practice that confidence. So practice in other parts of your life, and let me know if I can help you. I do mock interviewing and I do mock salary negotiation coaching to help people find the right words that are authentically them and confident and gracious. So I would be more than happy to help you with that as well. How to do that, how to find me. I'm on every social channel except TikTok because I'm just not that cool. You can go to my website, which is deependstrategies.com, like the deep end of a pool, deependstrategies.com. My contact information and social links are all over my website, and you can schedule prepaid coaching calls or even a free 15-minute call just to kind of get unstuck or figure out where to get started. But the worksheet that I showed you, just a snippet of, and actually training that goes deeper into how to use that, is available online, and I'm happy to send it to you at no cost. You go to deependjobsearch.com/salary worksheet. Again, deependjobsearch.com/salary worksheet. Just put in your email address and I will send you the deep dive training, the worksheet, and some additional information. So good luck in your job search process, in that salary negotiation, and I hope to work with you and talk with you soon. Have a great day.